ran into a friend over the weekend just before she went on a Hinge date.
Okay.
And
Hinge.
yeah, she like showed me her profile, solid profile. Dating profiles are really hard. And then she started like, it came up that, you know, she was like, you should make one. And I hate dating profile. I don't know how to create a good dating profile. You got to do the pictures and then the writing.
This is I am so pleased that I don't have to do that.
Oh yeah.
I
Total
did it
headache.
once. I did it twice, and both times hated it.
Yeah. There's a bunch of like so the photos were first. So I'm actually like working with her on, and like, I don't know if I'm going to create the profile, but it's like, you know, there's a fun little exercise. You got to get all these pictures together. You have to be like smiling in some. I don't like that.
I mean, I got to see your teeth. Let me see them teeth. Ooh.
Hold up. You have to smile, like, you have to have like cheesy grin smiles for dating profiles.
I mean, I would, because I'm a teeth person. So like,
you want to look open, right? You want to look friendly.
But I also just need to see your teeth. Like that might be.
This is why online dating didn't work for me.
Oh, because you didn't smile. You smiled.
Oh, Shannon's incredibly deadpan. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a challenge for me too. I don't think I smile much in photos. That's a toughie. Then there's like, you can't have too many women in a picture. You can't have.
Yes, that is correct.
I didn't know any of this shit.
Yeah, because otherwise it seems like why is there this picture of you with like your ex, and then you can't have the picture that was like really good of you where you cut somebody out, because it's like, damn, that seems kind of cold-blooded. So you have to have like, you have to be able to show that you have friends and are not a sociopath, but you don't want too many of those, because you also don't want the comparison of like, dang, I wish his friend was interested because he's hot. Like, it's a whole thing.
I didn't know any of this. Final thing, it's you got to have like at least one picture of you like full body, so people know like what you look like proportionally.
God.
I have a cute dog, so of course I have to include Olive in at least one picture. And we got through that, and then it gets to this portion with like writing prompts. Neither of you have done Hinge, have you? Flo, have you?
I have not.
Okay. So here's
only eHarmony.
I thought the photos would be the hardest part, but then I got to the writing prompts, and like they're so vague, and like a lot of them
vague.
Yeah, and like open you up to like really serious, like, you know, I'll fall for you if, you know, and then you have to write the if, right? Or like, let's debate about blank, which like if you're a dude, never pick that one. Like that's just probably not a good idea. But here are the three. It took me a long time. Here are the three prompts I found, and then like I was like, all right, let's workshop these and center my answers. Okay. Tell me what you two think.
Okay.
A random fact I love is, so that's the prompt, right?
Okay.
A group of beagles is called a borgle.
That's your answer.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not real, is it?
It's not true, but I'm
okay.
But
gotcha.
So I want to establish with them that I'm a liar.
A hilarious liar.
Okay. Yeah, we can go with that too. Yeah.
But I don't know that you're a liar is like, I think that's more funny than it is I mean, it's definitely untrue, but I think it's funny untrue versus I will deceive you on this date and you won't know who you're dealing with.
Flo's playing the straight person again, which I love this episode. You're like following it logically.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can go with that.
Okay.
No disclaimers to that. You're just putting it out there. So like, is this going to be used as screening criteria? If somebody is like, I'm into it, I had no idea about the Borgle. Are you going to like say, haha, I was just kidding? Or is that going to be like, oh, you're stupid, I'm not going to like date you?
Good point. Yeah, I was thinking either responding, haha, moron, that's not true, or you know, nicely saying that.
But
not sticking with the lie. Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to be very mature about this. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very mature.
Okay.
So that's a thumbs up on this one.
Yeah, I like it.
Shannon.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2, give me travel tips for. All right, that's the prompt.
Mm-hmm.
Give me travel tips for the long, inexorable march toward death. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
giving. Now you're starting to give a in addition
Come on,
to the
it's funny
Borgle.
though.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get. You know what? It works because you're gonna get very specific people to respond. I think.
yes.
Which is what you want.
A type of humor. Okay.
My only concern would be is the person getting an accurate picture of who you are
I think that's pretty accurate.
based on these answers.
Also, it's
And
dating
is this the first
profile.
impression that you want to make? That's my only question. And that's not a judgment. I just
What?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to really date anyway.
okay. Yeah.
But like if a girl's not cool with a joke like that, then whatever.
Okay.
Right? Shannon,
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like you'd be for this one. I thought I'd have a defender in this one.
yeah, but I'm thinking about you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's something I would say.
Yeah, but we are on
You're-
a long, inexorable march toward death.
I mean,
And I
you
need
have
some
a-
travel tips.
agree.
you have a little nihilism in you, so I don't think that's
Yeah.
the only thing I would say is I don't think that that's the most like
Like a definer.
prominent part of your personality. And so that's
Okay.
what I meant by like, yes, you have a little bit of this in you, but I always think of these questions as being like a snapshot into your personality. And so you want to, as accurately as is possible with a snapshot, capture like the things that are, I don't want to say dominant in your personality, but like how you show up so that somebody shows up on the first date because they're like, ooh, that person seems interesting. And not because they're interested in one like thing that you're 5% interested in. And that's like 95% of their personality.
I don't know. Like, I think given all the other stuff and the smiling pictures and the cute dog and everything, like, I think
Sure.
this is fine. We'll see. We'll see if the profile ever gets finished. Final prompt.
Okay.
2 truths and a lie. And
Okay.
actually, you two can try and figure out this one.
Ooh.
Number 1, the Sacramento Kings once considered suing me for a story I wrote about the Golden One Center. Number 2, I have double jointed elbows. Number 3, I'm working on a solo music project called Nickel Bjork.
You are not working on a solo music project called Nickel Bjork.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not true.
You guys don't know.
I'm pretty sure that you're not doing a solo music project.
Okay. So that's the final answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're correct.
Yeah.
But you two know me very well.
Yes. I also remember when the Kings
Have you seen
thought
my
about
elbows?
suing you, so
Have you seen this?
I have
can't.
not, and now I can't unsee it. So thanks
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
appreciate that.
It's a little
Oh
treat
my
for
gosh,
our
that's
YouTubers.
so intense.
It's like I don't want to look at my screen right now because between the cat that is crawling on Shannon and then Kempa doing weird things with his body, it's just like gouge my eyes out now.
Yeah. I'm excited to show a potential partner at the bar my elbow trick.
Oh God, it's so intense.
No, I don't think I've ever seen anybody, maybe once in my life, who had elbows as crazy as mine. Like, they're just, I don't understand how they
Terrible.
like are
They're just
still,
objectively terrible.
how they still work.
Mhm.
Yeah, same. Me
Yeah.
neither. You've never done that in my presence before, and I.
No, I never do that. I know people for years and like never do it. But folks, subscribe to us on YouTube if you want to see my wonderful elbows. But yeah, that's it so
You wanna
far.
see my elbows?
I think I'm on a good. I think I'm on the right track.
I think you're on the right track for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, if and
Great.
when I actually do create this thing, I'll report back and we'll
It's
discuss.
created. Like you've done all the things. What else is there?
There's a couple other things. There's like an audio thing you got to do. I don't know.
Oh,
that's
you
right. Yeah.
just give him your podcast voice.
Yeah.
Oh my
I don't know about
God.
that. Well, thank you for your help, both of you.
Yeah, we're super helpful.
I'm feeling
Always.
I'm feeling like
We're the best.
getting out there into the world. All right. You want to start the show?
Let's do
Oh
it.
yeah, sure.
Voices, the things they said. Voices, some from those dead. All the voices heard. Voices, things we say. Voices, they're in your head. All the voices heard.
Oh, hello, everyone. You have Kempa.
And Shannon.
And Flo.
Woo! No Skylar today. We have a jam-packed show today. I'm really excited about.
Jam-packed.
First things first, we love what we do. If you love what we do, please consider becoming a patron for as little as $5 a month. We do have patron-only content. Flo and Skylar just dropped an incredible episode of the Voices Cinematic Universe, wherein
VCU.
they do a review of Cocaine Bear, the cinematic phenomenon. So if you're into that and you want to hear what their takes are, and they are good takes, except for the first couple minutes, hop in there. It is a phenomenal episode. And then, yeah, beyond that, I want to let folks know about March 10th here in Sacramento. There is the California Republican State Convention. Alongside that, there is scheduled to be a huge anti-trans rally. And folks in the community in Sacramento are banding together to rally against that, to let the anti-trans folks know they're not welcome here. So go and follow Pride Was a Riot Sacramento on basically any social medium, and they will have more updates on kind of how we can fight back. But this is really important, and it's a really big deal.
Yeah.
Beyond that, let's get started. We ready?
Do
Yeah.
it.
Let's do
Okay.
Do it.
Number one, top story. Let's start in a little corner of California called San Francisco, but also start in a little corner of America called New York, which houses the New York Times.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guest essay by billionaire Michael Moritz. It was a partner at Sequoia Capital, who known for all sorts of things. You know, he gave a bunch of money to the Ponzi scheme, cryptocurrency money, lost a bunch of money there.
Oops.
He throws hundreds of thousands of dollars into helping moderate politicians in San Francisco. He decided to write a piece in the New York Times, a guest essay called "Even Democrats Like Me Are Fed Up with San Francisco." Who wants to give a little intro on this thing? What's it about?
Well, essentially, he he kind of I was like, well, where do we begin? So what's interesting about this read, I don't know if I should like editorialize while I describe it, but I think maybe it would be helpful for people, is I don't closely follow San Francisco politics. So I read his piece first, and I was like, this sounds like very one-sided in a way that doesn't feel like it rings true. But there were things in there that I didn't know were the problem. It was just sort of like, oh, that, like when he said like the newspaper is part of the reason why the government is corrupt. I was like, that seems like an odd line to throw, but like, okay, maybe, the lack of like oversight is contributing to them kind of running free without people being aware of what's going on. So like there were a couple of places where I was like, that seems like an interesting conclusion to draw. I don't quite understand it. I also didn't know really much about him to be able to be like, oh, you're presenting this perspective. But my spidey senses were up when I first read it. Like, what's the angle here? And I think because we had been having offline a conversation about the San Francisco book, and the whole take on it being like, Democrats are the reason why, or actually really what they're trying to say is progressives, even though they don't actually mean progressives, they just mean like neo-lib capitalists, but are unsuccessful in some of these like large cities. So why do we bother listening to you? Like all your ideas are silly and look how bad things are. And so I went into it with kind of that built-in bias. But his argument basically is that the mayor has no power. The supervisors run everything.
Yeah, he talks about this like political class. Let me just give a little paragraph here. He says, please. Like it or not, San Francisco has become a prize example of how we Democrats have become our worst enemy. Causes that we have long espoused: respect for human rights, plenty of housing that's within reach for most people, care for the mentally ill, fair pay, high quality public education, a dignified retirement, have all been crippled by a small coterie who knows how to bend government to its will. This astonishing city that I have been lucky enough to call home for more than 40 years has become subject to the tyranny of the minority. So he's sort of talking about this nebulous minority that is stopping any progress.
And that was what I thought was most interesting about this piece, because I was like, I think so too. But since he never quite got around to naming this minority, and since I didn't know some of the things that he said in there were just patently false, like people from the Transportation Commission were like rising through the ranks, and like that hasn't happened since 1977, which is before all of us were born. I was just like, I was like, okay, maybe there is a little bit of, because I know how the statewide Democratic Party works and the National Democratic Party works. So some of it, I think what was dangerous about this article is that if you're not in San Francisco, to really be able to put your finger on like, that's not true, and that's not true, and who are you talking about? And also, who are you? Because I don't really have a good sense of like, you're a person who's contributed $11 million to some of these races. And you're like, but when he got to the point where he was arguing against ranked choice voting, that's where I was like...
And he made ranked choice voting sound like this like nefarious illegal thing. He sounded like a QAnon Republican talking about voter fraud in Arizona.
Yes.
The way he explained it was just like, you definitely made this sound like I'm reading I'm reading fiction, and like it's like I'm deep in the dark web.
Yeah, and these nefarious players in politics are able to game the system after the first round of voting, when it's like, no, all the votes are already fucking cast. Like, he doesn't like it because billionaires like him can't game the system the way they have historically.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of my favorite parts of this is when he says, San Francisco, like a growing number of blue cities, suffers a dearth of minority middle-class voters who could offer steadying influences. And then goes on to later say, just a couple sentences down, that in 2020, frustrated by the condition of the city, I helped start and finance Together SF, which is now an active organizer of community events and has started to play a role in election contests through its sister organization, Together SF Action.
Just incredible.
It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, so there's this part, and like, God, let's just like try and lay out a couple of the contradictions in this. First of all, I wish a certain co-host were here, because he would really drop the bomb on the same old bullshit coming from a neoliberal saying, I am finally fed up with homelessness. It's time we do something. And it's like, yeah, you fucking idiot. It is time we do something. and they have no answers. They have a very, very like light understanding of this situation. And it's always funny in pieces like this. And Barry Weiss did another piece like this on San Francisco, where it's like they just start scratching at the surface of like capitalism is the problem. The fact that there are the very rich and the people who have nothing, that's the problem. But they never quite get there. And they try and twist it to just blame progressives, you know? But for one, he claims, you know, the mayor has no control in San Francisco. San Francisco is a strong mayor city.
Right.
Like London Breed, the mayor, can just choose to not fund whatever thing the supervisors vote on, and then that thing doesn't happen. Not only that, he led recall campaigns for 3 school board members in San Francisco and for the district attorney, successful campaigns. And after they were all recalled, then the mayor got to appoint these people, right? The new folks into office, right? So it's like, this is a city where the mayor has way more power than you would think, but he's trying to claim that like, oh no, like we can't do anything in the middle here or on the Democratic right. And then Flo, you know, you mentioned like they're like, oh, the Chronicle is losing all this staff, and it's like, no, it's actually not. It's actually
like
hiring.
They're not at their smallest. They are actually in the process of hiring. And like he also runs their competitor paper.
Yes.
Which maybe you might want to disclose
in this New York Times piece.
Because just like, and this is what I mean by like, if you read something without the context of who's writing it, then you don't really get a sense of like, A, what perspective they've taken, but also like where their potential biases may be, especially if they don't disclose them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got this multi-billionaire griping in a newspaper across the country, 3,000 miles away, about San Francisco, in a way that, like, you know, your far right Tucker Carlsons will be like, yeah, I totally agree. And to me, it just like, it's the same old thing, and it's the same thing we get from folks in East Sac and Land Park and
totally.
like,
yeah.
you know, the anti-homeless folks, where it's like, we got to put an end to this, and it's like, I mean, yeah, we agree, but like, we actually have answers, and there are no answers in this piece.
No, it's a bunch of complaining and contradictions, and then some funny lines like even Superman equipped with a lightsaber would not be able to govern San Francisco.
Yes.
This guy, he's pretty good. Garbage, fucking garbage, man. How do you have to have, what this proves is that if you just have a shit ton of fucking money, then you get an audience that the Times is like, sure, here you go. You can have this whole thing. This is more than 500 words.
It's pretty long.
Of just like bullshit.
Well, the funny thing is, he gets this piece, which, like, who knows if he wrote any of it, because as soon as he gets it published, all of these media outlets throughout San Francisco, journalists start getting these pushes from a PR firm called Rift City Strategies, whose president is an advisor for the current district attorney, Brooke Jenkins. Again, this district attorney is conservative and was appointed by San Francisco Mayor London Breed. All of this flies in the face again of him claiming that the mayor has no power in San Francisco. So this firm is basically that works for the current conservative DA. This PR firm is also trying to forward his message, which makes you think that effectively this is just a political ploy to get more conservatives elected. I mean, it's just that. And I think it's really sad and embarrassing that the New York Times, couldn't fact check it. And then that, like, you know, this PR firm gets to peddle this shit the way that they're doing right now to every outlet in San Francisco.
Yeah, well, thankfully, there's folks who are not letting it fly, and the takedowns are pretty special.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, folks, and we will include it in the show notes, but please do keep an eye out for the piece by Joe Eskenazi in Mission Local, hyper-local outlet in San Francisco, titled Michael Moritz's Strange and Terrible Diagnosis of San Francisco. Also give a read to the SFist piece. Who wrote that one? Joe Kukura, titled Billionaire SF Standard Financier Gets Guff for SF Bashing and SF Chronicle Bashing in New York Times op-ed. Both of those fantastic pieces.
Yes.
Yeah. Really
anything
good.
else we want to say on this before we move on?
You know, we stay ready to watch bazillionaires make asses of themselves.
It's wonderful. It's so we're so not surprised anymore. I remember reading it and being like, oh, okay. Like it feels like an AI. It's like an AI of John Frias Morales here in Sacramento was like to write an op-ed about homelessness. It's like, okay, you said nothing. You said enough is enough, and like tough on crime. Like, okay, bye.
But and also like, fuck, because there was a time not that long ago when reading something like this would just be like, surprising isn't the right word, but it would be remarkable. Whereas now it's just like of fucking course, dude. Like,
yeah. I think there's something interesting happening too, where it's like, I don't know where I've seen this, but it's true. It's like people are fed up with homelessness, obviously. And they will it appears that in a lot of instances, they will vote for anything that is sold effectively to them as change. So if you are a conservative in office, if you're a progressive in office, you're still potentially under fire for this problem in California. In the same way that conservative Democrat Lori Lightfoot in Chicago, the mayor out there, she, you know, she had a lot of power. She was like running the show. She was supporting the police out there, but because of a perceived or real, I don't know the numbers in Chicago, wave of crime, she did not even make the top 2 in the primary this week. So now there is both a sort of a leftist progressive, and he's really exciting. He's kind of the one who knocked her out. He beat her by 3 points, and then a more conservative Democrat who got like 33 points. Now they are the top 2 running for office there. It's like people get like mad and frustrated, and they just want change, you know?
Yeah, no, totally.
Speaking of wanting change,
Good
here in
seg.
Sacramento,
boy,
I remember a political campaign last year for the District 5 city council member. And we had a candidate who said, it's time to demilitarize the police. It's time for change. We don't need to be harming our communities the way we have been. I, of course, am talking about Katie Maple, who took no cop money, ran on a demilitarization platform. And then as soon as she got into office, voted for a massive tank called a Rook, a piece of military equipment for the Sacramento Police Department. It pissed off a lot of people. And in response, we had an episode on this, so we won't dive too far into that. We just want to briefly touch on her town hall meeting, which was effectively a Zoom meeting with moderation and a limit to the number of people who could speak. Shannon, I guess all 3 of us were on that call. Flo, you might have had to leave early because you had your stand-up show.
Yeah, I was on basically until the end. The only time I didn't hear was like the part where I was transitioning to the car.
Okay. Well, Shannon, do you want to just like give us an overview on what this was and kind of your takeaways?
Yeah. So this was billed as a town hall. And what it actually was a it feels a lot like, it felt a lot like virtue signaling. It felt a lot like tokenizing. It felt a lot like this it was a way to attempt to get out from under some of the criticism that the community has pushed toward the council member.
So her base is basically saying, you promised to demilitarize. We voted for you. We knocked on doors. We did all these things for you. We contributed to your campaign, and then you turned around and did this. The town hall, quote unquote, was all about like, explain
Let's
yourself
talk about it.
Can you apologize? What's going on?
And this was, so after the vote, there was the community uproar, the frustration and the anger and the hurt, all very valid. And so then the council member had issued this statement, which was a bunch of garbage. But it ended with, but we're going to have this town hall and you'll have an opportunity there to address more concern. Like, these concerns will be addressed. Don't worry. We're getting some shit together for this town hall. So this was held via Zoom. One of the reasons why we don't get to call it a town hall. Mm-hmm. There was also, there were 3-minute time limits. There were topics. It was all very agendized. It was all like very, very ordered.
You said 3 questions.
3 questions, and you had 3 minutes. From
her office, only 7 community members could respond to any given question.
Yep.
And you were not, it was a situation where, like, if you had your hand raised and you hadn't spoken before, then you had the opportunity to respond, and you get your 3 minutes. So there wasn't, again, this is not a town hall, because the questions were already written. They were offered by the office that is being criticized and being questioned for its decision.
Yep. And
there was a moderator, or a facilitator, excuse me, who was there, Adele James of Adele James Consulting, out of Sacramento. And she likes to eat chips without muting the microphone. But did, a fine job, I guess, like, in terms of, like, we didn't actually get to see much from the community in terms of, like, real accountability, because it was all so prescripted, right? Like, it was planned to the end. At the very end, during this town hall, excuse me, the D5 staff apparently was taking notes on the responses to the questions. And then there was a break that was offered, wherein the D5 staff took some time to read over the questions, or I'm sorry, the responses. And what we were told was that the council member would then offer her response. And the response was all of 3 sentences before saying, you can, we really have to, she said, I understand that people feel betrayed, and people feel like I'm young and new, and I am trying to figure that out, and I do need to do more outreach.
Yes, she said she was young and new, and so that's part of the reason.
Part of the issue.
Yes.
She does need to work on more outreach and connection to the community moving forward. Listen, for somebody who knocked on doors, like hell of doors in the district, you did your outreach and your connection to the community. That's not what the fuck the problem is here. You just don't listen. You don't give a shit. And then immediately after that, just a few sentences saying the same shit that she said from the fucking beginning. She said, and now let's talk about how we move forward together. There's an armored use policy, and we really want people to, like, bring their input and help, and help us operate from a point of shared knowledge.
Just so disappointing. Like, all of this,
it's gross.
It shuts your brain down listening to this. It's like she had a fucking PR firm designed to just like turn you off the second it gets to this part of the portion.
Here's the thing. You could, like, watching her, you could tell that she went into it and was already turned off, right? Like, she was managing her emotions in the best way that she, I guess, knew how, which was to completely disassociate from the situation and lean entirely on a statement that had been written weeks before, because that's all she did. It was just an echo of that statement over and over again. She never offered a real response to any of the very real criticism and questions that the community did bring forward, because people did find ways to bring things up. There was no actual opportunity for the community to make any sort of impact. This was a complete sham. It's completely disrespectful that the D5 office even like put this together in such a way, to try to save their asses. It actually just shows the community what the fuck they really think, and echoes what one of the callers said, which is that paraphrasing, but like, you got this power and we don't know you anymore.
Yeah.
It sucks. I mean, D5 was in a real way in terms of like the two candidates that they had. I don't think either was going to be great, but I don't know. Maple has really supremely disappointed. Yeah, in a real big way. I'm like, I really want to believe there was, Evan, who was on the call.
Evan Michael Minton, friend of the show.
Who really, like, I really love, he's also got like the sweet summer child, like, and a sort of like transformative justice approach to this, which is like, I know you and I want to see you learn from this, and I really want to see what the future might bring and give you an opportunity for like learning and growing and all of that. And I wish I had that lens, but after last night and after like, there was no vulnerability from her at all. There was no accountability. It was the coldest, most just disappointing, completely disrespectful, like really showed the community how little she values community input. It's really fucking gross.
Evan came on and said, hey, I consider myself a friend of Katie's, and like, none of us understand what we're seeing here, right?
Yeah.
Rose Cabral, probably the only leftist real estate person you'll find in this town, who's knocked on doors for rent control, all these things, and knocked on doors for Katie, came on with similar questions. Like, you need to look us in the eye and like really, really say why. And like, in my opinion, and like, I'm just echoing, I think you, Shannon, and everyone who's on the call, is just like, I think there needs to be an apology. I don't know if a politician is capable of that, or if that's good politics. I don't know what their, staff is saying to them, but like, that's what people need. And like, they need a promise for how you'll do better. And then, Zoe went on the call with a 3-minute comment. She basically started Sack Soup, which was like a homeless outreach nonprofit during the pandemic alongside Katie. She knows her well, probably better than any of us. And during her comment, she's like, I don't recognize you, and she said, you cut contact with everyone ever since the day of that vote. And like, that's to me is the problem. It's like, you can't, like, I get it. It's scary. You're in a leadership position. You are kind of, not much is out of people can kind of come at you for these things, right? And hold you accountable, and it's daunting. But you have to be able to stand up and actually face it. You got to be able to answer the phone when your friends call and say why you did it or apologize, right?
Yeah, instead of coming up with it, what it felt like to me was she did add an additional excuse for her decision, which was that she, and I had not heard this before, at least if I don't think that I had not heard it before last night. She said that she had asked city staff for more information reporting on the Rook prior to the vote. And the information that she got was so compelling because she said that the Rook had frequently or most recently been used in domestic violence calls. And she was like, that's something that is really close to me. And here's the thing about that. Like, domestic violence, like when you say that's something that is really close to me, like all of us, what you're doing is you have completely put a wall up because now you're like, don't fuck with my trauma, people. But it is possible to be a person who has experienced a traumatic event that like a Rook could have, quote, helped, and still be like, I understand why I shouldn't make that vote, right? Like, because I ran on a demilitarize the police platform. Like, you can't throw out that like domestic violence is a thing that's like really close to you and important to you and all of that, but then also like give the people who are harmful
a tanks.
Yeah, it's just, it doesn't like it, like the entire night, all I kept thinking was none of this makes any fucking sense. And you're just digging yourself in deeper, dude. Like,
well,
oh, you've been incredibly silent during this segment, and I don't understand why.
you're gonna make me say it out loud. This is really hard for me. And I think part of the reason why it's hard for me is everything that you all have said. I really vacillate sometimes very quickly between the righteous indignation that a lot of people expressed and just the anger and it being unbridled anger and the, sweet summer child kind of, experience that Evan Minton had. I am not, friends with Katie Maple. We have, had several conversations, but I am a person who often wants to see, the best in people, and finds myself really frustrated when people do things that feel disingenuous, and then act in ways that are really harmful and cowardly and all of those things. And I think that is what Katie has done here. I have also been really wrestling with the space that my voice should continue to occupy in this, because I feel very uncomfortable with the dynamic that has been presented of sort of Katie Maple as this kind of like waifish, young, naive white woman, and the people who are upset with her as being like kind of the big bad brutes, and in my case, the big black brute. And so in Adele's words, have a lot of feelings about this, because I want to scream and shout, how the fuck does Katie Maple get to be the victim in this when the fucking tank drove down my street? How does she become the victim? She carpet bagged and showed up in a community she is not from and does not live in, And the first thing she decided to do was run for office there. And people got behind her because she said she had good ideas. And her very first vote of consequence was to betray all of that and to double down. And somehow she's the victim because she's young. I'm going to stop myself there because it's infuriating. Like, if you're too young to be on the city council, then don't fucking run.
And also, you don't get to, that is not a valid excuse for this, because you were not new and young when you ran on a demilitarize the police platform. You understood what the fuck that meant because you wouldn't take their money, and you knocked on doors and you explained that shit to everybody. So you're not young and new. You are not brand new to this world, and you're not brand new to any of the movements. Like, what happened was you got in that seat and you got all the fucking power that you wanted. And, the thing that we all kept pushing her on was like, what's up with this shit with you and Ashby? Like, why do you stand Ashby so hard? Well, now we know.
It's impossible not to draw that direct line at this point. It's impossible not to.
I mean, how there is no way around it.
As it works in City Hall, and I think a lot of people know this, during these meetings, especially during, somewhat contentious votes, every city council member is looking at their phone, and there's probably 5 to 10 group chats going on, or single one-on-one text message chats with constituents, with other politicians, whatever, with stakeholders, business people, really driving home to them why they think you should vote this way or that way. You're telling me Katie didn't have a one-on-one text thread going with Angelique Ashby, reminding her that this is for domestic violence victims, or the city manager or the chief. Speaking of which, it's hard for me to, I think, and maybe this is a good question for all of us. If Katie could go back and do this over again, would she vote differently?
I don't think so.
I honestly don't know. And
I think she would.
And I think that's where I feel like I'm getting whiplash from bouncing back and forth between like the people who were just like wanting to get on there and wanting to yell, and the Evan who's like, what is up with this? And why aren't you better? Like, because I really don't know. I mean, there's a part of me that hopes that hindsight is 2020 and that she would show up and be like, if I knew everything I know now, I would do different. But I also have not heard her say those words. I have heard her try to skirt around, and because the thing I think that's happening here is that these ideals were easy to hold on to when you felt like you were part of this outsider group, and when people were lauding you for them, when they were creating distance between you and Tomiko Heim. Now that your insider group is other politicians, you don't want to be on the outside. You don't want to be Katie Valenzuela. You don't want to get the heat that Mai Vang gets. Yep. You want to be well-liked. Yep. And I think, quite frankly,
and she said as much before to most of us, probably.
She wants to be well-liked. And so she was saying the things to be well-liked when she needed to run for office, and when she's out and she has all these progressive folks who are going to show up for her. And now that she's in, she wants to be well-liked. And let me tell you, Chief Kathy Lester is good. Okay, Kathy will show up and make it seem like she understands. I mean, when she showed up to the heat table that Sacramento Act put together when she was deputy chief, I think that's the right title, she was like, November 13th lives in my heart because that was the day that JJ Clavo was killed, and I'll never forget, and I just blah, 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 right? Like, she knows how to turn it on.
Cops do PR incredibly,
the reason
and they
why
do it
she's
well
not
because
rank
they're
and
liars.
file is because she's good at that. And then add to that she's an easy on the eyes white woman, and it becomes really easy to make her your champion of diversity because she's different from the others and she gets it, and she's probably a parent and a this and a that. Like, it's so easy for her to bring you in and to in-group you in this way when you know full well how harmful this group of people has been, how much you should not trust them, given that you were doing homelessness work, direct service work, and you had conversations, I know you did, with police who said, we're not doing sweeps. And then you're looking at the evidence of sweeps.
And they fucking lied and did them.
Am I having cognitive dissonance here? Am I in a different world? Am I mentally decompensating? Because I'm looking at the evidence of a sweep and you're telling me you haven't done sweeps in 6 months. So make it make sense.
Right.
So why all of a sudden are they trustworthy on this issue? Why all that you've watched them from the sidelines co-opt language of movements to be able to say that they're trying to reimagine policing? That's not your tagline. That's plagiarized. That they are over here trying to, to engage in prevention, that they're doing all these things that it's not true. So why on earth would you take closed door meetings with Chief Lester and believe her when she says to you, this is about domestic violence, and not fact check it with anybody who's at least going to kick the tires on it? I mean, Katie, if you really feel like you are ready for office, the first thing you should have is a kitchen cabinet of people who sit around you and kick the tires on everything you do. And some of those are not necessarily paid consultants. They are your constituents. They are the people who are going to be the heart of your movement. And they are going to say to you, I hear what you're saying, but have you thought about it?
Yeah.
And you, I'm not against community engagement, but this didn't need community engagement. You needed to pick up your phone. You needed to have a conversation with some of the people you already knew. And the reason you didn't is because you knew exactly what they were going to say to you. And you didn't want to have to hear that because you didn't want it to be in your conscience. Because you've already decided who your friends are. You decided where your alliances lie now. And this was all opportunistic for you. And that is why I was frustrated when you were running, because I was like, this sounds good, but there are some deep inconsistencies here that you were never able to. It's like, I have a personal relationship. I don't care. I have a personal relationship with Rick Jennings. I have lived in his house, and I will tell anybody who will say it that man does not vote well and does not vote in our interest. And I do not care. I knew Tamiko Hyam before all of this. She took over the active transportation seat after me. I like Tamiko. She's cool, and she is a Black woman. And I still said, that's not the move, because liking somebody, knowing somebody, wanting that person to have all their basic needs and good vacations and health and good benefits is not the same as thinking that they're good for a job. It's not the same as adopting their political positions. You have to have the maturity and soundness of mind to know the difference. And if you don't, you are unfit for office. And what you've demonstrated to me is that you do not have strong courage. You do not have consistent character, because character is not just always doing the right thing. So let's say you messed up. Character is sitting down in your quiet spaces, having those conversations with people who knew and showed up for you when you were not council member Maple, when you were just Katie, and saying to them, tell me what it is, and really hearing and listening and crying and figuring it out and then showing up better. And calling up Adele James and getting her to half-assed facilitate this meeting that then where you're not actually going to engage in real engagement is not okay. Doing a land acknowledgement when you know that the people who are going to be most impacted by this decision are the very people who you could not have cared less about when you made the vote is disingenuous. If you're going to do a land acknowledgement, it should have started with the key to this town hall should have been, I'm sorry, y'all, I fucked up. What we gonna do? And if you weren't doing that, none of us should have even bothered to show up. But we showed up because we thought maybe I'm sorry, y'all, I fucked up was going to come out of your mouth. And it didn't. So I honestly don't know where to go with it, but I'm really tired of the manipulation that comes along with all these folks who are in power now going, poor Katie, she's getting beat up on. And, she wasn't the only one who voted and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's because the rest of you, we already knew where you were going to be on some of these.
Right. You didn't run on demilitarization platforms.
We were unsurprised. We're disappointed in you. We still think all of you are ridiculous and kind of don't get it and probably need to read a book or 12 or 1,200. But at least we knew, we were unsurprised by, we were hopeful, at least I was, because I'm still a little sweet summer child. But I also was like, yeah, that makes sense. As soon as y'all started in on I have a question. I have a question. I was like, I know why you're asking these questions. Because you're on the same nonsense you're always on, because you don't have imagination to be able to recognize that this could be different and you're the key to it. Because if any of you could actually step into your power and espouse the values that you speak on when it's politically convenient, this place would be different. But it's not, because you don't, because you won't, because you're being served by this. And so everybody else be damned. And you can talk to me about your values until you're blue in the face, but show me how you spend your time and how you spend your money and how you vote. And I will tell you exactly what you care about.
Glad we got you to open up about this, Flo.
I mean, anger is a valid emotion. I just also recognize also that it will be weaponized, and I will just be the Black woman screaming at the poor little white girl who couldn't get it together when she's a grown-ass woman and she is in a position of power. And that's the thing. So when Katie sits there and she does the quiet, meek, oh, I'm so sorry, and puts on that little face, it's like, and then we're all yelling at her. It's just like the optics of that play into everybody's like deep embedded biases. And I recognize that the only people who are going to hear me on this are the people who agree with me. And everybody else is just going to be like, see, they're so mean to her. They won't give her a chance, blah, 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 blah. And they're just not going to see it that way. So I think it's worth it to preach to the choir, but also the choir's been at 5 services today and they already know it.
Right. The choir, like, this is one of those times when it does feel like, and in the chat yesterday, it was like, the choir has been to 5 services and the tambourines are broken, because this is like, like, it's such a joke. Mm-hmm. And I think it is really important.
She shit the bed 3 times in a row now after this vote.
Dude.
And it's, you had every chance to redeem yourself and you just haven't.
I also I think that it's important to say that the act that she has taken up, the role that she is gladly filling as the victimized white woman, is really, really says a lot about her relationship to white supremacy and her ability to stand firmly in a position as an anti-racist leader in this community. She's failing in more than one way, and she's failing really fucking hard, really fast, really early.
Yeah. And, last time we discussed this, and, I've been talking with friends ad nauseum on this issue. I do, sweet summer child, think that there is a path out of this for her, but I think she has deeply, deeply damaged her relationship with her base and her relationship with a major part of her constituency that she made promises to. And I don't think she gets many fuck ups after this before she has completely lost her base and District 5 is not there for her. So I'm interested
her goal's not
to see...
District 5, so she'll be on to the next thing by the time she has to deal with that.
Well, if she keeps going down this path, there is recourse, right?
Yeah, but she'll be making friends at the level of, where like that's the thing.
And they already brought her in.
No, don't get nihilistic here. There's fucking recourse. We can take her out.
I'm not saying I'm not saying there isn't recourse. I'm just saying look at Angelique Ashby. Angelique lied and schemed.
Angelique is D1 though. This is District 5.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the bigger you get, the more of those folks that you like that are on the other side.
She's not respected on the other side either.
No, what I mean by that is like the broader you go out geographically. So if she decides to run for a higher office, the broader you go out geographically, the more moderate things get, the more you incorporate some of those other areas where you can explain your flip-flop as I got in and I made different decisions. Like I'm just saying, I have seen this show.
She is not strong like Angelique. She's not.
I hope
she's fucking not. We all just saw her crumble, right? So that's the first thing. B, like we can make it so she doesn't even last her 4 years if she continues down this path. C, like I swear to God, I had a C. She
See, I am right.
See you later. No. Like
I don't know.
Good.
I don't know. At this
I
point,
honestly
don't know.
think like I don't know. It's just this is a timid politician that I've talked with people on the business side, right? I've talked with people, the mods, and they don't respect this either. They're waiting for her to pick a lane too, and she's just waffling. She's hiding. Like, this is not a strong politician who makes it to the next level. It just doesn't read to me like that unless she actually starts making stands in one way or the other too. It could be stands against us, but like she won't even make stands like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not the person to tell you how to win friends and influence people, so I don't know.
Really?
I just don't know.
I mean, I think I do think, I don't know if I'm where Flo's at, but I know that I'm definitely not where Kemp is at.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
call me a centrist or whatever.
I mean, I may just be a little bit pessimistic at watching, like, I'm not saying that I'm just saying, like, I think that the political machine, like, the more that she kind of like moves towards the center and does apologist things for the things that she did, like, I think she may not be penalized by that. She may not actually have to face the accountability for that in the way that we would want her to if she continues down this road. Like, she could do an about face and be a different politician now that she's in office, and could parlay that to some other type of support. And yeah, so I try to remind myself that there's a reason why even the people who still are not sure they politically agree with her are protecting her. And some of it is certainly the combination of, of her, racial and gender identities. But I think some of it is also that they see an end. And I don't feel confident that they're wrong.
Right. I think that's real. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the only reason I responded to you the way I did was because I hate seeing you nihilistic. That's not your job on this show. And it's just like, I think there's recourse. I think there are answers, and like, whatever happens, but there's always a next step. That's where I am on it.
I mean, I'll say what I said
next step.
When the race started, which is D5 deserves better.
Yeah.
Heard. As the former D5
Sacramento,
resident.
as a former D5 resident, D5 deserves better. And, overall, Sacramento deserves better.
If only one young woman hadn't moved to D6.
I also think that, I know we need to be done.
I actually want to cover this last topic. So apologies to the editor.
Oh, I forgot about that. The thing I do want to say about Katie Maple is, I've seen a lot of talk about, like, it's not even her constituents that are criticizing her. And I think that it is important to remember that public office is public office, and that city leadership is city leadership, and that decisions that are made by individual council members, regardless of whether or not they represent your district, should be things that we all care about. Like, we should all care about the decisions that other council members are making. And
because they affect us.
Because they do affect us. And
she didn't buy this rook for D5. She bought the rook for the city of Sacramento police. That's who's going to use it. So anybody who lives in the city, honestly, anybody who lives in the region, because just like they had the rook last year that they borrowed from the county, who knows who Sacramento's going to decide that when they're not using it, they'll loan it out to. So Galt,
Right.
you should care. So Isleton, you should care. So West Sacramento, you should care, because I don't know we don't know how this thing is going to be used.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have precedent to show that they share their toys.
Right. Yeah, I think like the whole story about like, or, you know, it's all people that aren't even in D5 that are showing up to say shit. Like,
Look, I've lived in D5 longer than she did.
Heard, but
To this
also,
day, that still
but-
remains true.
I think the
And
other
I've
thing is,
represented D5 longer than she did. And to this day, that still remains true. So bite me, please, everyone.
yes, please sign me up. But I think also it's like, don't forget that like we can imagine a community where where people's voices are heard, where people get to flourish, where harm is not the default. And so we show up for each other. And like, that is why you find people from D4, D7, D2, whatever, showing up to all these different things. All of these decisions impact us, and community is community. Like, we got to be there for each other. But you know who's not going to be there for us is probably this guy that's running in D4.
That's a good transition.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about this. So conveniently, actually, the day before it becomes apparent that the recall push against Sacramento's District 4 council member Katie Valenzuela, a Democratic Socialist and friend of the show, their recall effort is a failure. It will not go through. The day before that, the old white moderates of Sacramento decide to try and bury the lead by announcing their horse in the race for the 2024 campaign against Katie Valenzuela, Councilmember Valenzuela, a man by the name of Phil Pluckybaum. What do we know about Phil? What's going on here?
Okay, I'm actually excited that we're still talking about this because I know nothing about him except that he didn't tweet a lot, and then all of a sudden he tweeted yesterday.
Yeah.
So do tell.
All I know about him is who is supporting him so far. So County Supervisor Phil Cerna, County Supervisor Patrick Kennedy, County Supervisor Rich Desmond, and former District 4 council member Steve Hansen. He's also supported by former council member Jeff Harris of former District 3. So a bunch of old white men who are moderates really want the indigenous woman out of office. And frankly, I am surprised.
And frankly, I cannot even believe it.
I never would have guessed.
Yeah.
I mean, don't know anything about the guy, but not surprised that they found someone. And time will tell. You know what? I'm a terrible co-host because I didn't even read his whole vote for me thing.
Yeah, so he works for UC Davis Health.
Mm-hmm.
And I have worked with him with the planning commission. So he was on the city's planning commission. I believe it's the planning commission. He was appointed by, I think, Jeff Harris. And so when he was in that capacity, I gathered in 2020 or as many of the chairs and vice chairs of the city's boards, committees, and commissions that we could get together to talk about some of just like the general structural issues that we were all having with the city and what we needed. And so Phil was a part of that group. So that is mostly the extent of my, knowing him and having worked with him. Yeah.
That's Phil.
And he was an active participant in that group. Fairly moderate from what I could understand. Also the planning commission had fewer of the gripes with the city than some of the other boards, committees, and commissions because they actually are written in and have some authority. They also meet more often and are just more highly visible and powerful. So there was also that that may have colored my impression of him, but he wasn't against any of the things that we were trying to do at the time, and that's the extent I know him.
Well, the platform that he's running on now is your classic neoliberal platform of tough on crime.
Crime, gee, I don't know.
Right.
For all my West Wing fans out there.
And then right, the homelessness thing, right? So the tough on crime thing, not a surprise. These folks want to trot out a horse who will take a fuckload of police and real estate money, right? And Phil is their guy, and he's not going to say no to that. And that will change him once he's running and once he's in office. You know, as far as the crime thing goes, it's like we've seen that any demonstrable, like any metric of like rise in crime, it just really doesn't stand the smell test. And, you know, Katie has nothing to do with anything in that regard, but also there has not been a serious rise in crime. Two, as far as the homelessness thing goes, Katie's district, in the little time she's been in office, has built so much more affordable housing than any other district in Sacramento. Katie's district is the only one that has opened up any form of a safe ground for the unhoused community. Not only that, she just the other day had to fight with the city manager to keep it open. She is doing more than anyone on that dais to combat the housing crisis and homelessness in Sacramento. So I'm interested to see how a fight like that goes down.
Mm-hmm.
Time will tell, y'all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't understand like what. So he hasn't, at least in my impression, he hasn't really like distinguished himself yet from Katie. He's showing up and saying, here's what I care about. And so my key question is going to be, yeah, but why are you running for this office if you care about that? Because that seat's already literally taken and those issues are already being addressed. So I'm really curious here's where I think it's going to be interesting. Right now, he's introducing himself as like a neutral person running for office, but he's going to run up against what I now like to refer to as the Measure A strong mayor problem, which is if you can't, until you create what the problem is, then you're not telling me why you're the solution and why we need change, right? So, you know, because the mayor was unwilling to say, hey, Howard Chan is a problem, then it was really a tricky like campaign to run because it's like, well, no, the city manager's great, but we need to change the structure of the city. And it's like, why? Well, the city manager's great, but we just really need change. Yeah, but why? Right? And so for right now, his statement has not gotten into it's like, I care about all these things. And I'm like, cool. Join your neighborhood association. Like, why are you here? So I'm waiting to see why he's here.
Yeah. And to me, when I look at his endorsers, it's to kick Katie out.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I'm waiting to hear him say why he's here. Because right now, all he said are things that one could reasonably say Katie also cares about, right? Like Katie is on the record repeatedly saying that she wants to make sure her neighbors are safe. So that involves, you know, what is crime, what's happening with crime, what's happening with our unhoused folks, what's happening with violence, like all of those things are under the umbrella of safety. So again, why are you here?
Yeah.
2024.
It's not an open seat, so why are you here? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean it's, and we all know why he's here.
Yeah, but I need him to say it. Otherwise, it's just kind of like, why are you here?
Yeah. Let's see how long you can last not saying it. But I think the key here is for Katie to have a lot of allies in 2024 who are also running for office. Clearly, she's got one in District 8. I think in District 2, there's a potential strong ally running to take out our dear boy, Sean Baby Laloe. And in District 6,
Has
there
Sean
appears...
announced if he's going to run for re-election yet? Are we sure?
I mean,
about
that's
that?
a good point too.
Yeah.
There's certainly not much money in his bank. I was looking through his campaign finances, and he's just throwing his own money into his campaign. So,
And I don't think this has been the fun,
Most
good
pleasant.
time ride for him, or the windfall, I think, of, capital that he was hoping for. Like,
yeah, folks,
Weird. What makes you say that?
continue to make sure he's enjoying his time here in office for his last year or so. And then District 6, I think there's a potential goodie. I don't know much about them, but from what I've seen, I've heard whispers of Isaac Gonzalez running for this against the current inhabitant. I think he would run on sort of the Prague line. And again, I mean, we're all just so burned by Katie Maple that it's just like, I hope he says what he means and means what he says.
mm-hmm.
But if all four of these progs kind of run in tandem, I think there's potential for a good year ahead in 2024 for these candidates. Shall we?
Yeah.
Yes, we shall.
All right.
Yes,
Well,
please. I'm so sleepy.
thanks for listening, y'all. We're all very sleepy. And that's going to sound weird if it's the morning, but I'm probably still sleepy if it's the morning. We will see you all next week. Don't forget to become a patron and check out the awesome episode on Cocaine Bear with Flo
DCU.
and Skylar, the Voices Cinematic Universe. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.